You're tuned in to the MtG Cable cast, where they cover Magic, the Gathering Finance. All right? You don't know about it? You're tuned in right now and get ready to learn some shit. Buckle your seat belts and light a blunt and get ready for the MtG Cable cast. Starring Reptar and Thirsty, them onion head motherfuckers.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to the newest episode of the Cabal Cast. And this week we're getting back to something we haven't done in a while, because if we did it more often, we would make no other content ever, because set releases are stupid and constant. So, we're taking a look at our Brothers War picks. For those of you that don't know, with our set reviews, we basically look at a card that we think is overvalued, just right, undervalued. So the Goldilocks of finance.
Yes.
So, with that, let's get it started.
Right. So the first card I looked at in our episode for Brothers War was Titania's Command as being overvalued. It was $4.11. Prediction was that this was going to crash, despite the fact that this is, as I said then, and I maintain, ridiculous in Commander in the long run. And it recovered fairly well and is trending up slowly after my called shot on the price drop. I think I said if you go back, this would tank to about 40 cents, and that is really what happened. If you bought in then, it's basically a double up into the open market. This was my pick last week or the week before on the podcast, as Card Kingdom was finally buying them at a decent amount. So you're now able to move these to profit pretty easily, pretty openly, and I don't think we are done here. It was overvalued then at $4. I think that's still an unreachable number. I believe this will settle probably in the $2 to $3 range in the long term, and that will be the correct price. So, all in all, I think I got, out of all the ones that I looked at, I think this is the one that I just kind of hit the nail on the head on and just called out the gates.
Yeah. Mine that I called overvalued was Diabolic Intent. So something I mentioned when I talked about the card is every time this card got reprinted at like a sizable amount, we got a new floor. And every time it kept going down. Now, at the time we recorded, I think it was like an $8 or $9 card.
Yep.
At low. Low currently is sitting at around $6.50. So I think short term, I was absolutely right. I also think, and I wish I'd mentioned this in the episode, long term, I do think this card probably has room to recover to about $12 to $15,
okay, just
being like a casual tutor. And the reason being, look at Demonic Tutor, which has had several reprints of more sizable quantity, and it still maintains its value. Obviously, not having to sack a creature is most of the time better. There can be synergies with Intent, but I pretty much hit it on the head. I said it was going to be like a $4 to $5 card at its low point, and probably settle around 6 to 7 in the midterm.
Yep.
Long term, though, again, I still think it's good.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It hit that like sub $8 mark, and for the time, the floor is going to be $6 to $7.
Yeah,
because that's what it is. Now, I will say, and I think this is true of all of our picks for this set. One thing that we did not anticipate when doing this was how frenzied the pace of releases, extra sets, and variants would be in the time afterwards.
Yeah.
So all will be one, change things because of how many variants they were. So that said, I still did all right with Diabolic Intent.
Yeah. Again, we're seeing a resurgence in price for this card. I think one of my LGSs I saw it for 9. And so we're starting to see that kind of localized recovery. The card that I looked at for being correctly priced was Liberator Urza's Battlethopter. And
love that card.
My expectation was that this was going to be similar to Hope of Gearper, but be more popular in equipment decks. So I thought the price was spot on then. It was $261. It is currently $252 market.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's basically where it crashed down to, and it's been maintaining, though it is growing a little bit now. The comparison to Hope of Gearper, however, is a little off. As a commander, though, Hope of Gearper, according to Rec, is in about 605 decks, whereas Liberator is in about 1,000 decks, so like 1.5x. So yeah, we got there in regards to being a general. However, inside the 99, Hope of Gearper is in 21,000 decks, and Liberator is only in about 9,000, so about 47% in that regard. So I did whiff on that one, and I'm not really sure if this is ever going to pick up inside the 99. It still looks fine. I don't kind of get really why people aren't playing this as much as I would expect them to, but at the same time, I think 3 months to overtake Hope of Gearper inside equipment or artifact shells might have been a little overzealous on that part, but I still think we are probably at the right price. Hope of Gearper is a $4 card. Right now, Liberator, like I said, is 2 and change, and I think we are still correctly priced for this card. It's good, it's not great, and it does what it has to well enough that I think we're just going to float here. I don't expect this to go down, and I don't expect anything to kind of come along and make this like a go-to general or card in the 99.
Yeah. I think the thing for me is looking at it now, obviously, with the gift of hindsight, it's way easier to build this card as a general than to include it in the 99, whereas Hope just goes in combo decks in the 99.
Yeah.
You just need protection.
It's exactly it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I fully expect this card to overtake Hope because it has that modality of, it can play in combo decks, and it can't just be a dumb, dirtily attacker. So it hits, the whole gamut, whereas Hope, to me, is more of like a CEDH or like 75% card.
Yeah, Silence is a very important card for combo decks, absolutely. Yeah. And so the sacrifice effect on Hope of Gearper does outshine almost anything Liberator does for a deck that isn't trying to win solely with the combat step. So yeah, absolutely. It definitely makes sense as to why Hope of Gearper is going to be in more 99s than Liberator will. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, at least right now.
Yeah.
Until people figure out, you can just run this as a dirtily good artifact and use it as a value engine rather than a combo engine.
Yeah. Like we talked about, I forgot what card it was when I was looking at equipment decks. Like white is the premier equipment color, right? You can still put Liberator inside the 99. It has a power and a toughness, and it is not Defender. Thus, it can rumble.
Yeah. And hey, giving your equipment flash is an extra Sigarda's Aid or, whatever effects do that.
Yeah.
So that's good. My just right card was the Might and Weakstone. Pleasantly surprised to say, kind of wrong on this one.
Okay.
It was sitting at about, low, I think at the time was just over $1 to $2. Low now, we're sitting at $3. It's a card that, I said, hey, it does a lot of things that artifact decks struggle with.
Yes.
It turns out that's still true. That said, I think, and I mentioned this in the episode, the 2 to 3 to 4 at the ceiling was about the range where I expected this to settle and be the right price.
Yeah.
And that's where we're sitting, because this isn't a combo engine. It isn't anything other than literally just, hey, what are some things that artifacts don't do very well? We don't remove creatures, we don't draw cards, and we'll just throw on some mana ability because that always happens.
Yep.
So I think that's, basically a good value for that. I mean, that $2 to $5, it goes in every deck. It gives you card advantage, and it may see play in 60 card formats at one point, which I did mention, but we'll see if it happens or not.
Yeah. While you're talking, people listening to the podcast will hear the familiar Windows bidding sound, and that was me searching EDH Rec on the Mightstone and the Weakstones page for the card Junk Diver.
Yeah.
And they are not paired together yet.
What?
That is correct. People are not looping the Mightstone and the Weakstone with Junk Diver. For anybody who does not know what Junk Diver is, I'll bring it up real quick. It is a 3 mana value, 1/1 flying artifact creature bird. Most of that is irrelevant, but it says when Junk Diver dies, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. This is one of a number of redundant pieces to loop artifacts in any one of those combo decks. And it seems like people don't want to pay 8 mana for the Might Stone and Meek Stone loops, despite the fact that with an altar out and the ability to tap the Might Stone and the Weak Stone, that is half the mana you need.
Yep. To just replay it.
Run it, yeah, because the Might Stone and the Meek Stone does have a mana ability that is restrictive, but it says this mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. So it can cast itself, it can recast the Junk Diver, and like I said, with Altar and Junk Diver out, that's 4 of the 8.
Yeah.
And I don't... Altar and Might Stone, Weak Stone, that's 4 of the 8. I don't quite understand that, and I think once people figure that out, that Might Stone and Weak Stone could be a loopable piece, a cog in the... another cog in the machine, then we might see an uptick in this. Had it already been in place, then I think we could just sail along, like you said. But that push, I don't think we've seen that yet. I don't think people have really explored the opportunity this card has in front of it.
Yeah.
And as such, I think we are kind of missing out on that right now, and that is sad to see.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Now, for me, the underpriced card that I had is Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, and Gwenna was $3.37 at pre-release and is currently a market of $1.21, so we are a big miss on that one, though we have been seeing gains recently. The reason I looked at Gwenna was I thought this was going to be one of the most ridiculous commanders we'd see coming out of this set for green-based creature decks because of the activated ability. Add 2 mana of any combination, spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of a creature or creature card. It costs 3, it makes 2. That is really good for green-based creature decks. It fuels the next play. Then the trigger, whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, and untap it. So you essentially you get to keep chaining Gwenna. I'm sure, like the tab says, there are a number of combos with Gwenna. Right now, though, it is in nigh 0 decks, sub 200 as a commander, and as a card in the 99, it's in about 6,000 decks. It is not seeing the play I had expected it to. Did I evaluate this card incorrectly? I think I did. I think I overhyped the card, but I do believe it has long-term opportunity. Should it be more than the $1 and change that we're seeing now? Yeah, probably, but I think what I overvalued was the ability for people to want to play this card immediately, go back and update, and I think a lot of what we're seeing with Commander right now is people jumping on the hype of the current set and rebuilding what they currently have or building anew. And when the support is around artifacts and the 2 theme decks you get don't include the color green, it's very difficult to want to rebuild or build around Gwenna compared to something like Titania's Command, which just slots in over a paltry card in the 99. It's a very easy card to make a swap for versus Gwenna, which takes some time to build around unless you're already in Big Dumb Teamer or Big Dumb Green. Then Gwenna, just goes in. I mentioned in the episode, this is no Silvala, the conspiracy elf that just does nutty things, or however you pronounce that card. Yeah. And it is not. It will remain, second banana to that into infinitum. The only thing I really got right about this card was like Titania's Command. I made a called shot on what this card was going to tank to. That was it. That's all I hit on this card. I think I picked this up, a bunch of them up for sub $1 when they hit, and I'm still sitting on them, and I'll probably be sitting on them for a fair amount of time until people come back around, until we leave Phyrexia and we get the color green again. If we go immediately to Lorwyn, that might be the place. That might be a white heavy set like it was previously. It'll be a little rough, but we'll come out of this.
Well, and I think the thing too is if we do go back to like a Lorwyn or something like that, there's lots of relevant green tribes, and this is also I think one of the things, and this is something I think I may have missed on my underpriced card as well, is I think on our underpriced cards, and this is just like a trend with us, we tend to pick longer term underpriced cards that in like a year or two start to recover. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it looks bad in the short term, but they almost always, because, the thing that we've started seeing with some of these cards is if they're more casual EDH, sometimes it does actually take longer for them to start see price growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, which on that note, my underpriced card, and boy did I miss this one. At least in the short term, Saheeli Filigree Master. I picked this card because is it and does artifact things.
Yes. Which
is just good. It also protects itself, but it does make itself smaller to do that. It draws you cards. It does a lot of really good things. I said at about $2 it was incredibly underpriced. Well, it's $1, so wasn't underpriced yet. Now it's definitely underpriced.
Yeah.
I misevaluated the term on this one. I did not expect Brothers War to be as heavily opened as it was for another, especially after, well, I said it was going to be heavily opened because, again, having serialized cards, but I didn't think it would be this bad.
Yeah.
I messed up. That's okay. It happens. The other thing that's really interesting about this is, and I think this is just a trend now, the last few sets have been heaters.
Yeah.
Things have died much faster because of it. The natural propensity to just move on to the next set, and you may have seen differently yourself. People are moving on way faster now. And I don't know if it's wallet fatigue or if it's just the sets are good or a combination of the two. But this card tanked, and looking at the copies sold, it's not selling a lot. So maybe it does take a year or more for this card to recover to the point that I think I mentioned like $5 to $10 was where I saw it at. I still think long term this card has a price point that's $5 to $10.
Yeah.
It's a popular Izzet Walker that does Izzet things because realistically there's two Izzet decks. There's Spellslinger and there's Artifacts.
Yes.
And this is one of them.
Yep. I think one of the things you might have been hoisted by was the fact that there is no demand for this card in Standard, and there's no demand for most of the artifact synergy-based cards in Standard. Whether people are playing it in paper or not, if you go take a look at the data, it's just a lot of like non-artifact-based aggressive decks, it seems. And Fable of the Mirror Breaker value stuff. But that's it. You're not seeing the kind of decks that this card would thrive in, that would see a lot of synergy in, and I think that is probably one of the bigger anchors to the price for this card right now. Do things swing with one? Maybe. But if they don't, then we're kind of on this long tail gain for Saheeli like we are with Gwenna. I think, like you said, these two are very long-term picks, and we just both kind of fell into that same little trap. I would have expected Saheeli to be doing better in terms of price and better in terms of popularity in Commander, but I guess people got everything they needed with Mishra instead.
Yeah.
And you don't really need the kind of mid-range opportunities that Saheeli provides. Like right now, according to Rec, the most popular new commander is not Mishra. It's actually Optimus Prime Hero by
a wide margin.
Yeah, percent based. If you want to actually look at the numbers of decks, it is Mishra, and then after that, Ashnod. But we have more commanders coming out shortly, so that might swing. That said, I don't think Saheeli is a bad long-term look. I think it's just going to take time to find a home.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many good artifact synergies that already exist with, like, Padim and Sai, Master Thopterist, Urza, the mono blue Urza. Like, there's no shortage of places for this card to play and exist. And I think it might suffer, not just from the standard, but also what Gwenna suffers from, which is just there is a home for it, but people weren't really interested in rebuilding or building around this card when the Mishra deck was handed to them, and they didn't need to go out and find a Saheeli for it.
Yep, it's already ready-made, good to go.
Yeah. You like Saheeli is not necessary for that deck to function, and I think that's kind of that was one of the big downfalls for the card overall. And then for me, that basically is it. I had some other odds and ends that I didn't look up for this episode that I wrote down about when we were going through this originally. That we can definitely take a look on. I'll look at later on. I think it's Brotherhood's End, the card I think it is. Is this the red card?
Yeah.
That I completely whiffed on. Yeah, I had it on my list to check in on, but I don't know where it was. Everybody identified this as a good card. Apparently, I did not identify it as underpriced at the time, and it's now a $6 card up from $2. Like, I think that's the only one on my list that actually grew.
The thing that I don't get about this card is it's just Slagstorm.
Yes, I did see that. I didn't understand.
I mean,
why.
I guess destroying all artifacts is, like, in CEDH definitely better. But it's, I don't know, I'd rather have Jessica's Will. Even though they do different things. Sure, whatever.
The power of Meltdown is to just get everything that costs 0 or less, and this is also not restrictive in the sense that it will kill your lands too.
That is true.
So I do understand that part about the card. It forces the use of treasures compared to something like Slagstorm. And it hits faster than Shatterstorm. Although Shatterstorm gets everything, it don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
same with Creeping Corrosion, the green one.
Yes. Yeah, because why not make the green version too?
Yeah.
Holy crap, Blade Coil Serpent was pre-ordering for $9, the Grixis thing, and it's down to 71 cents.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is why you wait till cards release to order them, guys.
Or you just wait for things to settle down. People thought this was just going to make an immediate impact because it's X and 6, and you don't have to actually pay into X. X can equal 0.
Sure don't.
Yeah, and if you pay double blue, double black, double red for your 6, you still get all the effects or some combination thereof. Like, the card is good, but it's not $9 ridiculous. But
no, absolutely not.
Yeah. All in all, for Bro, the cards that I had left, I just took a look at. Like, everything just tanked. Like, there's
it all did.
Yeah. Aside from Titania's Command, there was really no growth after the tank, and I just think that's kind of where we're going to be from now on. It's going to be your EDH hitters or heaters, and that's it. If I was to go take a look at the Dawn Glare for this set, I bet I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah.
Because there's been no recovery, sadly.
Well, and the other thing was, and we both said this multiple times when we were looking at the set. We expected it to be the most open set ever because of serialized cards.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
We expected it to follow that parallel. That's obviously true, but the lesson is that doesn't mean that it's a bad set financially. It just means there's way more opportunity.
Yep. Because
of how affordable things get.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, taking a look at this on Dawn Glare, it's not the worst in the world, but yeah, it's very bottom heavy at like the $2 to $3 slot is pretty packed, and then afterwards it is very sparse. It's like one card at every dollar slot all the way up to the $24 that is Urza Lord Protector, and then Awaken the Woods is $20. It just makes a bunch of tokens. Hooty hoo. Portal Phyrexia is tearing up EDH. I don't know if that deck is actually currently being played in Modern to success.
Yeah, I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah. Then Mishra, and you just see this host of Planeswalkers up at the top. Gix is doing nothing, but it's a Planeswalker. Titania, legendary creature, the first one we got. There you go. There's your commander. Cityscape Leveler is actually seeing constructed play.
Yeah.
And then that's Diabolic Edict. Like, that's it. It's basically a bunch of commanders, Portal to Phyrexia, and Diabolic Intent.
Intent, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's the set right now, and it's very difficult to kind of look at this one. I'm hoping that one is going to be a little bit different in that regard, and we'll see some recovery faster. We'll see some prices hold a little bit better than they did previously with Bro, and that Bro is a cautionary tale and not what we see with every set moving forward, because we harp about, pre-ordering is never always a good idea. It is usually almost always a
bad one.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing too is, and this is kind of unexpected, one of the lessons I've taken away from Brothers War compared to like All Is One is Brothers War seemed to me at the time, and I still think this is accurate, a set that was almost just geared towards EDH with a side of 60 card.
Yeah.
Where it was like, this stuff matters. Obviously, we care about 60 card, but all of the good cards are there for EDH.
Mm-hmm.
I think All As One has a good mix of both.
Yeah, I would agree with
And
that.
I think that is actually, and this is something that, a little bit contrary to what we've been saying, and I think this is a change as we're starting to get more organized playback, is those 60 card formats are starting to have a reasonable impact on prices again, which is good because we're getting back to the way things were pre-pandemic, where 60 card formats mattered. Stocking that stuff mattered.
Yeah.
Having that, buying it, whatever, all mattered.
Yep. I mean, and now it's just either going to sit there in cases forever or move to backstock and binders in time as people just kind of come down from that high of like, all right, I need a crack for my own, or I need to buy XYZ, and like once the market's flooded and everybody has it, it just piles up.
Yeah.
So, ready for picks?
Let's do it.
All right, I went first last time, so you can go first this week.
I'm going this week. All right. What I have for you today is a pick that is based on absolutely almost zero data science, almost zero market trends. In fact, it's kind of contrary to the market trend right now. But I am picking new Phyrexian Metamorph.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, if you look at the stocks graph, you can see we just started ticking up. Also, anecdotally speaking, I cannot count the number of times over the last 6 months that I've been in a booth asked for Phyrexian Metamorph, that I've been at other booths shopping and heard them ask for Phyrexian Metamorph, that I have been asked in store for Phyrexian Metamorph, that people have posted ISO posts that include Phyrexian Metamorph. But I don't think, unless we bring back Phyrexian mana in a way that is not just completing Planeswalkers, we are going to get a reprint of this card anytime soon. And we had one in Double Masters, but we haven't had one since. And as more and more people get into, at this point, not just EDH, but this is a card that has seen play in some Eldritch Evolution lists, in some Kiki Chord lists. It has a history in 60 card formats. This is a card that could see more play as those things start to come out and be more and more relevant. I just think if you're seeing a card where people are actually asking for it, they're seeking it out, it makes sense to kind of have it on hand.
Yeah.
Yes, we are slightly trending up. We are trending up since our all-time low in 2021 after the Double Masters printing cratered this card. But this is a card that if you can pick up for $4 to $5 now, your floor on that is getting your money back.
Yeah.
At some point. And you can get your money back right now selling it to someone. But this is something that now I've started to keep in my trade binders when I go out 2 to 3 copies, because people are actively seeking it out. They do want this card again. Be it EDH, be it 60 card, whatever. There is demand for this card now, where for a while after Double Masters, this card was everywhere in every booth. Nobody wanted to buy it. Now you're starting to see it pop up again. So figured I'd at least point it out anecdotally that this card is suddenly becoming more desirable, and that this might be something that you may have kind of put to the back burner, but if you've got some, get them out again.
Yeah.
If you don't, try to get some, because I bet you offload them pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. Phyrexian Metamorph was never like a hugely important part of the modern metagame. It did fit in the list that you're talking about, and it's weird that it was in like Kiki Chord and Kiki Pod, but not actually Birthing Pod to go into and out of, which is like just odd to think about. But at the same time, it provides a little more flexibility and utility in the Kiki deck, which is basically what that deck was just like randomly good Naya creatures that could also combo out when it had Pod. And then when it didn't, it would just cord it up. Or is it Eldritch Evolution that's also the pseudo birthing pod?
Yeah. It's just fetch one, sack it, and fetch.
Yep. Yeah, so you would climb the ladder that way. Yep. And then, like we talked about on top before the cast, this copy is an artifact or a creature, so it's a very flexible clone. It costs 3, not 4, because you're paying 2 life in Commander every time. So why not? It is utilitarian in every blue deck for Commander, and so it makes sense that we're going to see some push for Commander, be it CEDH or not, and then anything that's coming out or being brewed up in Eternal formats. Modern is an ever-changing format. Right now, people are losing their minds over Rot Priest And who knows what's going to come next with this card. It does afford you the opportunity to do some weird things. And so if you're not just looking to have this on hand for yourself, for Commander, for Modern, it makes sense to have some for other people who want to use this in Commander or Modern. And like you said, it was never really a bad target. It was always kind of movable, even when it just fell out of favor. But it always moved. Now, just more so than before.
Yep.
And for what it's worth, there is the launch party promo that uses completely different art than the and then anything else aside from Secret Layers. So that's also not a bad look overall from a population standpoint. About the same price either way, and it's an old foil, so it's not going to turn into a Pringle. Also, those used to float around as well. Not a lot of people like the launch promo stuff because it's got different art, so it's hard to play with the other three that aren't foil, blah, 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 blah. But not a bad look overall for that. So I like Metamorph as a pick overall. I have my set, and I don't think I'd ever move them until I was done because I don't know what kind of shenanigans I'm going to roll up with. But
exactly,
Metamorph provides me the ability to roll up with shenanigans.
Sure does, and it's great.
Yes.
Love it.
Yep. So for my pick this week, I'm stepping back into the color black, which does not happen all that often.
It's months.
It's been a very long time. And we're looking at Hand of the Praetors, a card that I keep finding in my Mirrored and Besieged set, or Scars set, whenever I dig through for Dismembers and Shieldrids and just wonder what's going to happen with this card. And here we are. We finally have another push for poison counters overall, though Hand of the Praetors is an Infect general, so to speak. It's 3 and a black for a 3/2 with the keyword Infect. It has your standard lore text with a twist. Other creatures you control with Infect get +1/+1. And whenever you cast a creature spell with Infect, target player gets a poison counter, right? So not only does it start the chain, it helps push it along with the Lord ability. And this might seem counterintuitive because we just got Toxic as a keyword, which is not Infect, so they don't play together. But the thing is, in that regard, they do play together. And that's why we're seeing, I brought the stocks graph up, I didn't really talk about it, this hard uptick in the last couple of weeks when you take a look at stocks and you zoom in. So this card is moving in quantity, and it's moving quickly.
Yeah.
The stats on it for Card Kingdom is a little harrowing. When I added this to my list, it was August of 2022. Card Kingdom was buying 46 at $3. There were 111 at $6.10 on TCG Player. When I took my notes, Card Kingdom was buying 28 at $3.50. There were 130 on TCG Player at $6.90. And right now, Card Kingdom is buying 3 for $1.90. And TCG Player is out of stock. For what it's worth, so is Card Kingdom. TCG Player isn't out of stock. They're running out of stock. But Card Kingdom is entirely out of stock. So whatever the hell is going on with this buy list is not going to be reflective of what it's going to look like next week. Or the week this episode comes out. So keep an eye on this. Now, as far as Commander playability goes, this slots into decks that are looking to poison out the table as the Plan A option. And I'm not going to talk about Infect or Toxic. I'm going to spend time talking about Poison, because that's what matters here. Poison. That's what kills.
Yes.
Well, that's a lie. State-based effects kill. Poison just happens to roll it up.
Yes. Poison is just the state-based effect that matters here.
Yes. Now, looking more broadly at the format, initially the Poison themes seemed narrow in scope and not well supported, but with the push to place Toxic on a larger number of cards in one, the space opens up. So before, very limited, because we had like Skithrix, and that's kind of really it supporting the Poison theme, or you could branch out and play whatever color general you want that involves black that does not have the keyword Infect on it, but it was not right. You know, it needed a little more time to cook. Now with Toxic, we're good. We also have an absurd number of new cards that just happen to proliferate, and that helps to push the win condition, meaning that this Lord should go up in play value, as you'll need fewer counters placed overall before you start proliferating. So again, whenever you cast a creature with Infect, creature with Infect, target player gets a poison counter, and there are a lot of creatures with Infect within black and blue.
Yep.
You don't have to get through. All you need is that one. And there's the, not Plague Rat, because that's like ABU. There's the rat from Scars Block that literally just says, come in, everybody gets a little sick. Everybody just gets a poison counter. With Handout, that's 2. And then you start your proliferation chain. It's really, really easy.
Yes, it is.
So getting in for 3, 4, 5, etc. poison damage with an infect creature thanks to this lord is going to push the end game a lot faster, because you can go a little wide and give everybody that plus. We also have new cards that jumpstart poison counters, again effectively shortening the game and putting more value on a lord to help close out faster. And I believe it's the 1 mana value spells from 1 proliferate, the 2 mana value spells place a poison counter, and the third ones do something different, maybe proliferate and something cool. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's either add a poison or proliferate, but they have something else tacked on it.
So again, this all shortens the clock before we even get to the toxic creatures. We're just shortening this clock, which really helps a tribe that, like I said, has a bunch of poison creatures in black and blue, but really needed to push through a lot of damage beforehand. Now, this lord isn't worth an additional 1 damage per creature with infect. It's actually worth 3. It still takes 10 poison counters to knock someone out compared to 40 damage.
Yeah.
So you're ending this game a lot faster with poison. And I don't know if I said it on the cast because I spent a lot of time talking about it last week. I think Toxic is WotC's way of pushing on the RC to say, make a change to this number. For the time being, though, that's where we're going to operate. We're really going to steamroll ahead with this. For a timeline, I expect continued slow movement for the next few weeks while people tinker with poison-based decks until things are smoothed out and Rex starts to homogenize and coalesce around our new cards. Once that happens, that's where we'll see this pick up, as combining the quote-unquote chocolate and peanut butter of Infect and Toxic looks to be the way to build poison decks. So, buying in now should yield immediate results in a few weeks, but larger gains a few months out, especially if March adds additional support to this. It could be in any form. It could be more Toxic, more Infect, more Proliferate, any of that stuff. It's all going to be extra for this card and for these themes. Reprint equity, it's hard to imagine this gets reprinted now that we have the Toxic keyword, as it references Infect directly. And it seems like Infect might now be phased out for Toxic. Toxic seems like this is where they want it to be with Pit Scorpion and Marsh Viper, and maybe even Virulent Sliver, but they didn't quite get there. They couldn't figure it out. So they came up with Infect. And Infect just blew the doors off of it, and so they rolled it back again to Toxic. And I think this is where we are now. Save for Infect, everything else has kind of been leading us to Toxic and pointing to, like, this is where we're going to be for now. So I do not expect this to get a reprint anytime soon.
The other thing that I think is really good is, the all will be one EDH decks. Obviously, one of them is geared towards poison, toxic, whatever, and it's Mardu colored. Those cards are very, very good, and I think that what we may see is people are kind of maybe slow to adopt those. I don't know if it's true everywhere. Obviously, TCG it's not, but a lot of stores that I know are selling them only as a pair because the red-white one is so bad.
Oh, it is, but it also has what the hell is it? The reprint? Isn't there
It's got Path of Ancestry, I know.
Crap.
Dragon Master Outcast is in there. Myria Angel. There's a bunch of stuff in there. But yeah, it's got good cards. It's just not a good deck.
Yeah.
And so I think that as more people start to adopt Ixel and Vishgraz is what they're called, you'll see hand take off even more. Especially because, look, we're on Phyrexia for the next year.
Yeah.
Who knows what kind
that's
of toxic or poison we're going to get.
Yeah, that's the Abzan deck, by the way.
Abzan, not Marty. Sorry,
The
Abzan.
Boros one actually has like 2 banger reprints in it.
Yeah.
The Pseudo Teferi's Protection, like tier 2.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. Okay, yeah.
But and because of that, I think this is significantly more likely to, like, long term, like you said, just be really, really good.
Yeah.
Because people just haven't adopted to it yet.
Nope.
But they will.
Yep, I mentioned TCG Player is draining. I took these notes earlier in the week when there were 130 listings. We're now down to like the low 90s, so that's 40 overall listings.
Yeah.
We're seeing, like, aside from the one day this week where 34 of them sold, we've had steady sales of about like 4 to 10. So we're averaging, that's like 6.5 to 7 per day when you extrapolate, and the market price is just going up. That's exactly what we want to see for this card. The only question that really remains for the individual is just buy quantity. Like, from just cracking, I have like 2 or 3 of these, and that's kind of where I feel comfortable with with quantity when I'm looking to move them from a binder. But if I was going to move them back into the open market or buy list, I'd think 8 or more.
Yeah.
Just because now you're serving the entire community, and with more support for Poison, this opens up more opportunity for people to actually buy these cards instead of just jamming Skithrix again and again and again. And at the end of the day, this might not be an attractive theme. I've noted before how I really do not like buying into Punisher generals, Punisher cards overall, because I think they're always a flash in the pan. And I've talked recently a lot about how it seems like even Craterhoof Behemoth and winning in combat certain ways seems to breed this negativity.
Yep.
Infect might be similar. I do not know, because it just seems like it's never really been popular. Sorry, Poison just never really seems to have been popular enough to gain a foothold in the format for me to really take the temperature on it. But if I had to guess, it might turn out to be the same as a Punisher general, because it's only 10, not 40. You know, it's not 99 when you're targeting a library to mill somebody out. So without a rules adjustment, this could fall out of favor very quickly. But at least for the time being, we're going to be able to turn this around really quickly. And that's why my suggestion is to look more into the open market and binders than it is to buy lists, because I don't know how long this is really going to last if people sour on the strategy.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
If the RC comes through and bumps the number up to 50, and WotC agree that bump the number up to 15 or 20 or 30, then might be a little bit better. It'll hold longer. Until then, though.
Yeah. I think the thing, too, on this is, even if, when you mention quantity and going deeper if you're doing open market, I'm super comfortable going deep on this for open market, because, look, they can't reprint this. Infect is not a good keyword.
Nope.
They've recognized this because they made it toxic, and it's fixed. There's no way we get back to Infect, and having a Lord effect like this. Sure, we're not getting more Infect creatures. Who cares? That's fine. It's still insane, because long term, we will just have more opportunities for Toxic to exist.
Yes.
And guess what? Being able to proliferate more is always good when you're doing it.
Yep, absolutely. So. Yeah, and that's why I like this. There's some other odds and ends that I think fit really well into the shell overall, but some of that's kind of like TBD. Like Phyrexian Swarmlord, I think works pretty well in there.
Love that card.
There's a Hydra that I think they cribbed.
Yeah.
In one and gave a Toxic instead of poison. It literally is Phyrexian Hydra or something like that.
Yeah.
I think they cribbed it in one, just like they did with Carnage Tyrant, and exactly right. Come on, but I think this is, I alluded to like a chocolate and peanut butter kind of situation between Toxic and Infect, and I do believe that's the way this deck is going to have to be played for the foreseeable future. So you need to buy in on the best pieces, and hey, I think this is one of the best pieces. So
if not the best, yes, it's pretty good.
Thank you.
Pretty good.
And I think that's going to be it for this week, unless you got something else tucked away for me.
Good to go.
All right, so for at MTG Cabalcast on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and YouTube, I am at Halt I Am Reptar. You are
at Thirsty Sizzler.
We'll see you next week.